Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I cover nostalgic, obscure, otherwise strange content. It's National Treasure time, baby! If you don't know, the last video I posted was supposed to be about National Treasure. I ended up making it about Winnie the Pooh instead, and here we are. Now we're talking about National Treasure. I, straight up, just gonna say it right now, I love this movie. I've loved this movie since I was a kid and the movie came out. And I've been wanting to talk about it on this channel for a very long time, especially because there seems to be a little bit of a resurgence. Like, I remember when the movie first came out, everybody hated it, or pretended to hate it. It was not, like, a cool movie to like. Maybe it still isn't. But, like, I definitely see a lot more discourse online where, like, people are like, I actually do like that movie. It's very silly, it's very campy, it's very fun, and I am very excited to talk about it today. This is that movie, if you haven't seen it, where Nicolas Cage steals the Declaration of Independence. You know that movie? Let's just jump into it. So we start off with this kid. He is, he's looking through old stuff in his grandpa's attic.
Grandpa!
And then boom, jump scare, there's Grandpa. This is baby Nicolas Cage, by the way. Well, not literally, he's not a time traveler, but, this is the kid version of his character.
I just wanted to know.
He knows that there's some big family secret. His family is very, tied to American history. You'll quickly find out. They named him Benjamin Franklin Gates because of course they did.
Well, you're old enough, I suppose.
So his grandpa sits down to tell him the story.
It was 1832.
So as the story goes, and, there's a lot of retconning of American history in this movie for sure, but as the story goes, the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence was dying, and on a dark and stormy night, he woke up his poor stable boy, who was probably not getting paid enough money, and made him take him to the house of Andrew Jackson, who was the president. This is the story that the movie revolves around. I cannot stress enough that this is not based on actual history. Anyway, that doesn't matter.
Did he talk to him?
No, he never got the chance.
The president wasn't there, but this guy was dying and he had a secret, so he told his stable boy, who was this family's ancestor. He was a Gates. That's how their family got so tied up in the whole American history business.
What was the secret?
A treasure.
There is a buried treasure in America. Apparently, this treasure has been, at the center of wars all throughout world history, and every time, a new country took ownership of it, it grew because they, added their own treasure to it. So this treasure is massive. It contains, pieces of long-forgotten cultures that are completely irreplaceable and invaluable now. Invaluable? That's the word that means really valuable, right? It sounds like unvaluable, but that's not. Anyway, really massive treasure. Beyond comprehension treasure.
And then suddenly, it vanished.
One day, the treasure was found by a bunch of knights. They were like, yo, no power should have this much treasure. This should belong to the people. So they swore to protect the treasure.
They formed a new brotherhood called the Freemasons.
They started the Freemasons, the famous secret society. That was apparently started to protect this treasure, and the treasure was eventually hidden in America because a bunch of the founding fathers were Freemasons.
They devised a series of clues and maps to its location.
They basically set up this massive treasure hunt that's interwoven with American history to hide the treasure from the British.
Charlotte. The secret lies with Charlotte.
And the first clue was given to their ancestor and passed down through each of them. This family is hell-bent on finding this treasure.
Who's Charlotte?
That's the clue.
The Freemasons among our founding fathers left us clues like these.
Speaking through money, the American way.
The unfinished pyramid, the all-seeing eye.
But whereas Benjamin Franklin Gates's grandfather is all into the whole lore of the treasure, his father is not.
You know what that dollar represents? The entire Gates family fortune.
He's a negative Nancy, if you were, and he does not want his son hunting this treasure down also.
6 generations of fools chasing after fool's gold.
But it's too late. Ben is obsessed from this point on in his childhood with finding the treasure.
Are we knights?
And then he asks his grandfather to be a knight, and his grandfather knights him, and it's very cute. And then we flash to the present day, and we never see his grandfather again. Presumably he's passed on at this point in the story, which is very sad. I like the grandfather. Rest in peace, Grandpa Gates.
I broke a shoelace this morning. It's a bad omen.
So now Nicolas Cage and Ned Stark and their friend Riley are all north of the Arctic Circle looking for Charlotte. Because remember, the secret lies with Charlotte.
Why are we stopping? I thought we were looking for a ship.
I don't see any ship.
Apparently the reason they're here is because Charlotte is some kind of ship that went down a gajillion years ago, and they think the clue might have gone down with the ship.
It could be that the hydrothermic properties of this region produce hurricane-force ice storms that cause the ocean to freeze and then melt and then refreeze.
And Riley explains in very techie terms that, like, they think it's been, like, trapped under frozen ice. Something science.
Hello, beautiful.
So they start digging the ship out. You gotta love how Nicolas Cage manages to unearth perfectly just the perfect shot of the name Charlotte of the ship. Very lucky indeed. But they unearth the shipwreck and they go below deck. Duh! That is terrifying. Sorry, Riley. I love Riley.
Is it a billion-dollar pipe?
They find this fancy pipe, which I guess is the next clue. Ben literally uses his own blood to, like, press out this next clue. It's very intense.
55 in iron pen. Mr. Matlack can't offend.
So they spent some time arguing about what this clue might mean.
The key in silence could be...
Prison.
Albuquerque. See, I can do it too.
And after some deliberation,
It was iron. It was firm. It was mineral. No.
Nicolas Cage makes this discovery.
Timothy Matlack was the official scribe of the Continental Congress. And to make sure he could not offend the map, it was put on the back of a resolution that he transcribed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, so there's an invisible map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Apparently, the Founding Fathers knew that the map would never be destroyed because it's the literal Declaration of Independence. They had a lot of confidence in this country, so they were like, it'll be safe here.
And you said there were several Masons signed it, yeah?
And Ben is pretty, nonchalant about this giant, history-altering discovery. He's used to it, I guess, being part of the Gates family. But now he has a problem, right? Like, the next clue is literally on the Declaration of Independence. There's really no way that you can get to that clue as, like, the average person, right?
The most important documents in history, they're not just going to let us waltz in there and run chemical tests on it.
And then Ned Stark is like, nah, I've done crimes before. What's another crime?
I arranged a number of operations of questionable legality.
I'll steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm not going to let you steal the Declaration of Independence.
Ben's like, bro, what? Then they threaten to shoot Ben, and then Ben threatens to blow up the whole ship because they're surrounded by gunpowder. It'll be pretty easy.
Or I'll shoot your friend.
Hey!
And they threaten to shoot Riley, and Riley's like, don't drag me into this. And then a huge fire breaks out. It's all about to blow, and then, Ben finds the secret passageway at the last second, and he and Riley manage to escape, even though now the big bad guys think that they're dead.
He's gonna steal the Declaration of Independence, Ben.
We stop him.
You know that awkward moment when your friend is gonna steal a centuries-old document that's irreplaceable? So Riley and Ben are a duo now. They go to DC, and they just start trying to tell anybody that will listen that, look, these guys are going to steal the Declaration of Independence. And literally no one believes them because they think that they're crazy.
Is it really so hard to believe that someone's gonna try to steal the Declaration of Independence?
Which, like, I guess I understand, but also, you don't think that they wouldn't at least look into it? Like, it's one of the most important documents in the world. I mean, at least to Americans, which the FBI is. So they finally make their way to the National Archives under a fake name because the Gates family name is not respected.
Dr. Chase can see you now, Mr. Brown?
Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Family name doesn't get a lot of respect in the academic community.
Everybody thinks that they're a bunch of crackpot idiots.
Abigail Chase?
Paul Brown.
Paul Brown is your alias, Ben? That's such a boring alias. So they talk to this lady, Abigail, who is an expert on all things American history. She's the director, somebody. She's very important. And they're like, look, lady, help us.
A neat collection. George Washington's campaign buttons.
They flirt in History Buff. He's like, look at all those buttons that you've collected. Somebody's going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
We believe that there's an encryption on the back.
They try their best to sound credible, but there's really no other way to say it other than
Cartograph.
A treasure map?
That's where we lost the FBI.
there is a treasure map on the back of the Declaration.
The only thing there is a notation that reads, Original Declaration of
Independence dated 4 of July, 1776.
Wasn't the Declaration of Independence not actually signed on the 4th of July? Isn't that a myth? Editing me can figure that out later. Anyway.
It's invisible.
And that's where we lost the Department of Homeland Security.
We found an engraving on the stem of a 200-year-old pipe.
Did Bigfoot take it?
She doesn't believe them either, and so they seem to be out of options. They go and visit the Declaration of Independence, and Ben gets all weepy over America, I guess.
It means if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action.
And he decides to steal the Declaration of Independence, and he says that he's gonna steal it in public, where I'm sure there's a lot of, like, guards and stuff, so, like, maybe don't do that, Ben.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Maybe be a little bit stealthier than that, Ben. And then Riley, who's my favorite character and also his main purpose in these movies, is just to tell all the other characters, but especially Nicolas Cage, that they're being ridiculous, is like, this is a bad idea.
It's like stealing him. It can't be done. Not it shouldn't be done. It can't be done.
And Nicolas Cage is like, yeah, I know, but still.
I brought you to the Library of Congress.
I like how Disney just shows off in this movie how they have that Disney money and can get clearance to film in literally any location. This is just like the grand tour of American monuments. And they're just like, yeah, we got to film here. What are you going to do about it?
When the Declaration is on display, okay, it is surrounded by guards and video monitors and little families from Iowa.
So he's trying to prove to Ben how impossible it is to actually steal the Declaration of Independence. Not how his day started, but it's how his day is going. I like these CGI shots to show us how, like, well guarded the document is.
You know, Thomas Edison tried and failed nearly 2,000 times to develop the carbonized cotton thread filament for the incandescent light bulb.
But Thomas Jefferson never actually figured out how to invent the light bulb. He just hired people that figured out how to invent the light bulb, and then he took credit for it.
And when asked about it, he said, I didn't fail. I found out 2,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. But he only needed to find one way to make it work.
But yeah, okay, I see your point, Ben, I guess. And Ben basically counters Riley's point by being like, hey, if something happens to the document where they think it might need to be examined, they'll put it in this other special room that's not the vault. And then also there just so happens to be this big gala going on, because of course there is, so everybody will be distracted and we can sneak in and steal it then.
This might be possible.
And what I love about Riley as a character is not just how sarcastic he is, but basically his friend is basically just like, you want to help me steal a Declaration of Independence? And Riley's like, well, I guess I got nothing else going on, sure. So Riley, being the techie brains of the operation, goes into a maintenance closet in a subway, I guess, and somehow hacks the mainframe so that he can get into the security cameras in the National Archives. Just go with me for a minute. Just suspend your disbelief. He's recording fake security footage so that he can, pipe that in later. Meanwhile, Ben is doing a little science experiment at home. He's making himself a fake security badge.
Buy that.
Which looks awful, by the way. He's also making some glow-in-the-dark powder. Or it glows under blue lights. Not glow-in-the-dark, you know what I mean.
Yes, just came for you. hope it's not from Stan.
Yeah, fuck Stan. We never find out who Stan is. Ben sends her a present that's the last button she needs in her collection. It has the invisible ink on it. I'll get back to that later. Yeah, the process with which they seal the Declaration is very convoluted, so just try to keep up with me. I'm doing my best. Riley has this really concentrated laser hooked up to a camcorder so that he can shine it right onto one of the sensors of the Declaration to set off like the heat alarms, so that they'll be able to send it down into the like room where they have to like do maintenance on it because they think there might be something wrong with it. I hope that made sense. If not, there should be things on the screen trying to help you keep tabs on what's going on. Abigail gets called down to the secret maintenance room. She has to type in the code. The invisible ink is on her fingers. They'll be able to see what she pressed later on. Meanwhile, Ned Stark's just planning to go in there guns a-blazing and just break down the door and take the Declaration.
Ben, are you sure that we should do it?
Ben sneaks in dressed as a maintenance man while Riley chills out in the van that they rented, which is like his headquarters. He goes in the bathroom and he pulls off the maintenance man uniform and he's got a full tux on under it, which had to be super uncomfortable.
How do you look?
I love Riley. So while the bad guys are going in, like, via the sewer, just, like, breaking in, Ben and Riley are pulling off a much more sophisticated heist.
Mr. Brown.
Dr. Chase.
What are you doing here?
Is that hot girl?
Riley's trolling Ben all night from the earpiece that he has on. It's hilarious.
Come on, Romeo, get out of there.
He talks to Abigail at the party.
To high treason. That's what these men were committing when they signed the Declaration.
Gives a very comforting speech.
Had we lost the war, they would have been hanged, drawn and quartered, had their entrails cut out, and burned.
And then skedaddles off to the bathroom with the glass that he took from Abigail that now has her fingerprints on it. He's going to use it to trick a fingerprint scanner so that he can get into the maintenance room where the Declaration is. He goes through this whole process of like chemically lifting her fingerprints. But hey, that's pretty ingenuitive, honestly. Good for him. Oh yeah, what's Ned Stark doing? Oh, they're doing violence. Okay, never mind. Riley patches pre-recorded surveillance footage that he recorded earlier in the day where the hallway was empty into the monitors where the security team is watching so that they can't see that Ben is just walking right in.
You are now the Invisible Man.
How you doing? I know this is quite a process, but you hanging in there? Alright, we're almost done. Thanks to the invisible ink on the present that he gave Abigail, Ben is able to list off all the letters typed out on the keyboard to Riley, who then puts it into an anagram system so they can try to figure out what her passcode is.
A glove fry, a very gulf, Fargo, Levy, gravy flow.
None of those sound correct, but it turns out it's Valley Forge.
It's Valley Forge.
Valley Forge, I don't have that on my computer.
Feels like a kind of on-the-nose password to have at the National Archive, but anyway, moving on. Ben's taking the Declaration out of its little protective box thing, and as he's doing that, the bad guys are about to bust down the door into the room where he is, so it's a race against time.
I'm taking the whole thing. I'll get it out in the elevator.
He's like, ain't nobody got time for that, and he just takes the whole thing with him into the elevator. And lucky for him, he does, because his very violent past friend sees that he is not dead and has the Declaration and starts shooting at him. So the bulletproof glass in the case not only protects the Declaration, but it protects Ben.
Who's shooting?
But he gets the Declaration out in the time it takes him to ride the elevator upstairs and puts it in a little plastic tube.
Do you have a Paul Brown on that list?
Paul Brown? No. Meanwhile, Abigail is figuring out that he is not on the guest list and therefore something fishy's going on here. Ben gets back to the front of the National Archive where he's caught in the gift shop of all places, not because anybody thinks that he actually has the Declaration, but because the clerk there, who's still on the clock, even though there's a big gala going on, I guess they wanted to make sure all the billionaire donors were able to buy knickknacks.
Are you trying to steal that?
This lady thinks that he's stealing one of, like, the prop declarations that you can buy as a souvenir, and so she makes him pay.
It's $35.
For the Declaration of Independence.
We take Visa.
He has to pay with a credit card, and yes, that will come back to bite him in the ass, but anyway. Abigail catches up to him right as he's about to get in the van and get away clean.
Oh my god.
And then the alarms start going off, and she puts two and two together, and she's like, oh shit, that's the Declaration, give it! He gives her what she thinks is the actual Declaration, so that he can then make his getaway. Spoiler alert, it's a prop version, he still has the real version.
Just who might you be?
But the bad guys don't know that, so they kidnap Abigail, and then there is this high-speed car chase through the streets of DC. And I'm gonna be honest, this movie was made in a time when Disney was actually putting their all into making live-action movies, so this has some pretty cool effects and definitely some really cool stunts in it. I've always really enjoyed this car chase scene. It's like a good old-fashioned Hollywood chase scene.
Thank you.
Ned Stark, I don't know what his real name is in this movie. I've seen it a million times, but I always forget. Ian, his name is Ian in this movie. Anyway, he gets the fake Declaration away from Abigail right before Ben saves her life. So now Ben, Abigail, and Riley are in the van with the Declaration heading off to God knows where.
You are all lunatics!
You hungry?
What?
Are you hungry? Not the main issue right now, Ben.
Are you all right?
Still a little on edge from being shot at, but I'll be okay. Thanks for asking.
Poor Riley.
Who were those men?
Just the guys we warned you were going to steal the Declaration.
And you didn't believe us.
I mean, you really should have listened to them, let's be fair. So now the FBI shows up. This FBI boy, I don't know what his name is either. He kind of ends up in like a little bit of a cat and mouse, catch me if you can situation with Ben later on in the movie.
Okay, my name's not Brown. It's Gates.
Wait a minute, did you just say Gates?
Abigail finds out his real name and she is horrified.
You're that family with the conspiracy theory about the founding fathers?
The Gates family really is seen as a bunch of crackpots. Are they like this universe's like version of QAnon supporters? Like their name just brings shame with it everywhere it goes.
You paid with a Visa.
The FBI figures out who Ben is pretty quickly because he paid with a Visa. Nice product placement.
Dude, we're on the grid.
So now they can't go back to Ben's apartment where they had all this like stuff set up so that they could analyze the map on the back of the Declaration. So now they have to go to Plan B.
It took you all of 2 seconds to decide to steal the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, but I didn't think I was going to personally have to tell my dad about it.
They pull off in this field that just so happens to have this beautiful view of... What building is that? It's not the White House. Is it the Pentagon? No. Yeah, I don't know all of our monuments off the top of my head. Anyway, isn't this a gorgeous shot? Like, look at this shot. I've always loved this. It's so pretty. Like, unnecessarily pretty. Getting night shots like that are always so difficult. I love this movie.
I'm not going. Not without the Declaration.
You're not going with the Declaration.
Abigail refuses to be ditched, by the way. She is like, until I have the Declaration back in my possession, you're not going anywhere. And they can't really let her go anywhere because she's going to immediately turn them over to the cops. Which, the FBI is already on their tail. But, you know, whatever.
They're all from the same person. Your humble servant, Silence Dogood.
So Ben knows that in order to decipher what's on the back of the Declaration, he needs something called the Silence Dogood letters, which are basically letters that were written by Benjamin Franklin under a pen name. They're real, there's a whole thing about them. Anyway, he had scans at his house that he now can't go back to, so he has to go ask his dad, who has the originals. Like, his dad literally has the Silence Dogood letters. This was a little bit before the time of smartphones, so he couldn't just, like, Google it, I guess. I feel like it's something you could Google nowadays. But anyway, he has to go see his dad, who's a grumpy Gus, if you don't remember from the beginning of the movie.
Why is this word capitalized? Because it's a name.
Oh, I was about to say that I forget how he knew that he needed the letters, but it's because of the original clue. It had something, said silence, he figured it out. And now the bad guys know it too, so great.
I'm in a little trouble.
Is she pregnant?
I look pregnant?
Yeah, poor thing. Rude.
It's about the treasure.
And he dragged you two into this nonsense?
Literally.
I volunteered.
Riley's such a mood. But anyway, they show up at the dad's house in the middle of the night. They try very hard to keep from him that they have literally stolen the Declaration of Independence. But he does tell him, hey, Dad, we found another clue. The dad's like, the whole treasure's fake news, whatever.
Legend was invented to keep the British occupied searching for buried treasure.
They end up rolling out the Declaration of Independence on the kitchen table.
How old is it?
At least 200 years.
Really? Sure?
Pretty darn.
They do the whole activating the invisible ink with lemon juice. It doesn't work because, you know, you need heat.
I told you. You need heat.
Which his dad tells him. He's like, dumbass, you need heat. But I'll be damned. There's a treasure map right there. Well, kind of. There's a series of numbers on there, which are codes to put into the Silence Dogood letters. Cipher where you, like, count the numbers over and then you write down the... You know what I mean. You probably all did this. Or maybe I was just a nerdy kid. I definitely did stuff like this when I was a kid. I loved solving puzzles and riddles and making up puzzles and riddles for other people to solve, but that's off topic.
Those latitudes and longitudes?
That's why we need the Silence Dogood letters.
But there's just one problem. Dad doesn't have the Silence Dogood letters. He sold them.
I don't have them.
I like how he pulled it off by the middle finger as if to give his dad like a subtle flip off. Sorry, that wasn't intended to any of you guys. I just felt the need to do it.
He donated them to the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia.
Oh, sorry. He donated them to the Franklin Institute. I feel like you would sell those, but anyway. Maybe I'm just a terrible person.
Time to go.
So they're like, all right, bye, we're headed to Philadelphia. And before they can go anywhere...
I know.
This is the Declaration of Independence.
Dad figures out that this is actually the Declaration of Independence.
You stole it.
You're complacent in this too, Riley. What would you do if this was your family member? If this was your child? It's like, I kind of sort of stole the Declaration of Independence, right? You'd die. You just die right there. Look at his face. He looks like he wants to be hit by a meteorite right now.
You gonna untie me?
So they take the car from the dad and then do a half-assed attempt to look like they tied Dad up so that the dad has reasonable deniability, plausible deniability. You know what I mean. So that he can claim that he knew nothing about this, which he technically didn't, but anyway, he did unknowingly facilitate handling the Declaration of Independence, which is so... Anyway, we're just gonna keep going. So while the FBI are talking to his dad, they're hightailing it to Philadelphia.
When are we gonna get there? I'm hungry. This car smells weird.
Riley is tired and hangry. But Ben managed to steal a few $100 in cash from his dad before he left his house as well, so they can use that to buy new clothes and try to stay off the grid a little bit longer. The next morning, Riley, not wanting to be seen, I guess, pays a kid to go in and look at the Silence Dogood letters and, you know, count the numbers in the different serials that they found on the back of the Declaration. I'm not entirely sure why this was necessary, because Riley wasn't seen stealing the Declaration. I guess the FBI knows at this point that Riley's with him, because he was with him when they tried to tell the FBI that the Declaration would be stolen when the FBI didn't listen. It's just so funny that in this movie, Nicolas Cage is just like, it's like the meme, can't steal the Declaration if I steal it before them. Like, while the kid is in there getting the last batch of letters, the bad guy, Ned Stark, he sees the kid running in and out, kind of puts two and two together that his old buddies must be there. But Riley figures it out by himself, good for Riley, before the kid comes back, so he manages to get away. Meanwhile, Ben and Abigail are changing in very open changing rooms. This looks like they're like right in the middle of the store, I guess for sexual tension reasons. Anyway, they have a conversation.
I just want to know it's not just something in my head or in my heart.
People don't really talk that way, you know?
They're cute. I ship it. Anyway.
Now, pass and stow, of course, referring to...
Liberty Boy.
Why do you have to do that?
Riley is like, in The Good Place, when, the reoccurring thing is like, everybody hates moral philosophy professors. Riley's like, everybody hates American historians. So the next clue is taking them to the Liberty Bell, another famous monument.
Comes as the timely shadow crosses in front of the house of pass and stow.
They realize that they have to go there at a certain time and the sun will cast a shadow and they'll get the next clue.
Excuse me, can I see one of those $100 bills I paid you with?
No.
Yeah, that is a really sketchy thing, Ben. Come on.
Here, I have this diver's watch. It's called a Submariner. I dive with it. It's actually quite valuable. You can use it as collateral.
This poor lady's not getting paid enough for this.
Hold this.
Okay. I'm not going anywhere.
She's like, I'm a co-conspirator now, and I'm happy about it.
What do you see?
222.
They need to be there at 2:22. They find out by looking at the back of a $100 bill, an elitist place to put a clue, but anyway.
What time is it now?
Almost 3.
It's almost 3. They're too late. They're heartbroken.
We didn't miss it because... But you don't know this?
But now Riley gets his time to shine.
This is cool. Is this how you feel all the time? The daylight savings wasn't established until World War I.
Good for you, Riley. Daylight savings time. You know that pain in our asses? It hadn't happened yet. It hasn't been invented yet.
If it's 3 p.m. now, okay, that means in 1776, it would be 2 p.m.
He realizes that they actually do have time to get over there.
Do you actually know who the first person to suggest daylight savings was?
Benjamin Franklin.
Meanwhile, the bad guys get the last clue from the kids and then are just Googling Stowe Declaration of Independence. Alright, that's not fair. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't know that off the top of your head. Anyway, it's just funny. So the bad guys go to Independence Hall to look at the Liberty Bell, but...
It's not here.
Silly bad guys. The Liberty Bell's been moved. That was supposed to sound like the Tricks Are for Kids thing, but I couldn't make it work in the end, sorry. The bell's been moved, and Ben and Abigail are smarty pantses. I think that's the plural of smarty pants. And so they know where the Liberty Bell is, so they managed to get there in time. The shadow points them to a brick in the wall, and by defacing yet another famous bit of American history, they find some old-timey glasses that belong to Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin invented something like these.
I think he invented these.
Fair point.
The last time this was here, it was being signed.
Ben, there's another tour coming.
Alright, Ben, can you nerd out on your own time? We're kind of in a time crunch right now. They look through the glasses, they see a hidden message on the front part of the Declaration. It says, "Here at the wall." The fact that the Declaration hasn't disintegrated yet after all it's been through, good for it.
How'd they find us?
Ian has nearly unlimited resources.
Yet another reason to eat the rich. They split up. Ben takes the case that the Declaration was in, and then Abigail and Riley run off with the actual Declaration in the hopes of throwing the bad guys off their rhythm.
Take care of her.
I will.
Awkward. This sets off yet another high-stakes chase, this time through the streets of Philadelphia. It ends with Abigail having to hide in the meat section and pretend that that guy's her ex.
Do you want something?
Shut up.
I see why you left him.
I love that. Bless those extras. He'll probably push past you. Just let him. It's okay. We'll give you a bump. I hope they got a bump. The Declaration ends up in the middle of the street somehow. It almost gets run over. But then who picks it up but evil Ned Stark? I'm just committed to the Ned Stark bit at this point.
Hello, Mr. Gates.
Right after this, the FBI catches up to Ben and takes him in for questioning.
That's some story.
It's the same story I tried to tell you guys before the Declaration was stolen.
Ben's like, if you had listened to me, I wouldn't have had to steal the Declaration of Independence. So this is kind of your fault, Mr. FBI man. I should be arresting you.
Door number 1. You go to prison for a very long time. Door number 2. We are going to get back the Declaration of Independence. You still go to prison for a very long time.
I don't like either of those doors. Can we maybe make another door appear magically, Encanto style? But thanks to the FBI guy fidgeting with the very historic glasses, he realizes that they were supposed to look at it once with the blue lens and then once with the red lens, and they forgot to look at it with the second lens, so there is a second part of the clue that they haven't seen yet, and then Ned Stark calls him.
How are you?
Chained to a desk.
They set up a meeting to meet up in New York, which the FBI facilitates because, you know, they need to also catch Ned Stark and bring him in for questioning. So now we're in New York. They're quite literally fishing for Ian, the bad guy, with Ben.
Something I noticed about fishing. It never works out so well for the bait.
Amen, Ben. And then after a bit of commotion, Ben takes a very dramatic exit, which is to say he jumps into the Hudson River.
But I found door number 3. And I'm taking it.
I don't even want to know the amount of disease you could catch from jumping into the Hudson River. He kind of gets help pretty much from the bad guys to escape. There's like a scuba guy and a boat because they know that they need Ben to find the treasure and that Ben is in the custody of the FBI. And this has happened unbeknownst to Ben. This has happened because Abigail and Riley made a deal with the bad guys.
We made Ian believe he could have the treasure. It was the only way we could get this far.
Alluding to the idea that if they helped them get Ben away from the FBI, then they would let him have the treasure. It's very dumb of Ian to believe on his part, but you know. I know it's confusing. I'm using so many different names, especially for the bad guys, but anyway. I think you're following along. I hope so. I'm also losing my voice a little bit because I've literally been filming for an hour and a half and I'm not done yet.
The map said here at the wall, spelled with 2 E's.
Oh yeah, the next clue takes them to the corner of Wall Street and Broadway. Nicolas Cage will explain that to you now.
Wall Street follows the path of an actual wall that the original Dutch settlers built as a defense to keep the British out. The main gate was located at a street called De Heer. Later, De Heer Street was renamed Broadway after the British got in.
So now what? Well, I'm glad you asked. The bad guys have kidnapped Ben's dad. So now they have to do whatever he says. They go into this old church. They know that the next clue is somewhere around there.
Good luck. I don't think you fully appreciate the gravity of the situation.
Using the Ben Franklin glasses again, they find out that the treasure is literally under this church. They're making very quick work of this centuries-old puzzle that no one else in the family before Ben was able to solve. Good for them.
As soon as this guy gets to wherever this thing ends, he won't need you anymore.
I love how the dad's like, be careful or he'll kill you. And Ben's like, thanks, Dad. Needed that.
So 3rd degree master mason.
Yeah, this is a very, interesting conundrum. How are we gonna solve our way into... Oh, we're just gonna hit it with a hammer. We're just gonna hit it with a hammer? Okay.
Who wants to go down the creepy tunnel inside the tomb first?
I do. Alright, so they go into the tunnel. Ben kisses Abigail. We get that shot from the beginning of all Disney DVDs in the 2000s where Nicolas Cage is holding the torch.
To the adventure beyond the horizon.
You remember that? I think I just unlocked a memory for you.
How do a bunch of guys with hand tools build all this?
Same way they built the pyramids.
Yep, old school ingenuity.
The aliens helped them.
No. No, that definitely wasn't it. Oh, God. This movie's so long.
Right under the Trinity graveyard. That's probably why no one ever found this.
What was his explanation for it never being found?
Right under the Trinity graveyard.
Oh, it's under a graveyard, so nobody found it. The place where... the place where you would constantly be digging to put... They never found it? This movie really does try to explain its bullshit story a lot. Like, you can tell that they were very self-aware about how, weird this premise is. But it's fine, guys. We don't care. So then, all these boards that are old as hell start breaking out from under them, so it gets really intense. I don't know how some boards are sturdy enough to carry the weight of, a whole body hitting it at full force. But, other boards just disintegrate when you look at them the wrong way.
The Declaration.
Do you trust me?
I mean, sure, I guess.
I would have done exactly the same thing to you.
Really?
I would have dropped you both.
Riley knows what's up. He's so over it. So after this very harrowing experience, they get to an empty room. Anticlimactic, I know. So they deduce that somebody else has found the treasure. And those life-changing, history-changing treasures that just kind of fly under the radar when people find them. They figure somebody already has it.
Another clue.
No, there are no more clues. That's it.
Why are you yelling at me?
You're not playing games with me, are you, Ben?
So Ian doesn't want to believe that this is the end. He calls Ben's bluff and gets out of Ben another clue.
You can't just leave us here.
By threatening to leave him there to die.
The lantern.
Dad.
Well, I guess the dad caves first. Good job, Dad.
The Old North Church in Boston, where Thomas Newton hung a lantern to signal Paul Revere that the British were coming, one if by land, two if by sea.
So the bad guys abandoned them to follow this lead to Boston, but anybody who knows anything about American history will know that this is a fake clue, because the British came by sea, so it was 2 lanterns, not 1.
I'm sorry I yelled at you.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm speaking on behalf of Riley now.
British came by sea was 2 lanterns, not 1.
Hey, I just said that. So they open a secret passageway off of the secret passageway and find another room that really does look ransacked. So they're like, oh shit, the treasure really is gone.
You found what they left behind for us to find and understood the meaning of it.
And then he and his dad have a heart-to-heart.
Really thought I was going to find the treasure.
Then we just keep looking for it.
Not to be Johnny Raincloud here, but that's not gonna happen. Because as far as I can see, we're still trapped down here.
You could be Johnny Raincloud, Riley, it's okay.
First thing the builders would have done after getting down here was cut a secondary shaft back out for air.
So Ben knows there must be an emergency shaft somewhere, and he puts the pipe, you remember the pipe that they found way back at the beginning of the movie? He puts that into the wall, and if you thought this movie wasn't going to end with them finding a giant room of unfathomably valuable treasure from all over the world throughout pretty much all of known history, you'd be wrong.
Scrolls from the library at Alexandria.
I would love it if we could actually find scrolls from the Library of Alexandria. Natasha always says that it'll always be too soon. She'll never not be salty about the Library of Alexandria, and I have to agree with her.
It's a big, bluish green man with a strange-looking goatee. I'm guessing that's significant.
Riley is me whenever I go to a museum. I'm like trying to pretend like I know anything about anything, but I don't. I'm just happy to be there. Yeah, so the treasure goes on forever. It's just an ungodly amount of treasure. And then poor Riley realizes that they have to get out using another sketchy set of stairs.
Riley, are you crying?
Look. Stairs.
So then they have this scene where Nicolas Cage busts out of this crypt.
You have a cell phone I could borrow?
And scares the shit out of this security guard. Hi. They call the FBI, and they're like, look, can we make a deal?
I do know you just handed me your biggest bargaining chip.
Declaration of Independence is not a bargaining chip.
I would use it as a bargaining chip, Ben. Honestly, you're in quite the predicament right now.
I take it you found the treasure.
It's about 5 stories beneath your shoes.
I love the way Nicolas Cage says the word shoes.
Shoes.
I love it.
You know, the Templars and the Freemasons believed that the treasure was too great for any one man to have.
And plot twists that none of us knew we needed, because maybe we didn't need it at all. The FBI guy, he's a secret Freemason, so he's very sympathetic to their cause. Ben's like, hey, you know, we found all this treasure. We think it should be divided up amongst the world because it is history from pretty much every civilization. So it belongs to the whole world, not just America. And, you know, if you could kind of let us off the hook, you know, and Abigail doesn't get fired and I don't go to prison or anything, that'd be nice.
Someone's got to go to prison, man.
Well, if you've got a helicopter, I think I can help with that.
And luckily they know exactly where they sent all the bad guys, so they sell them out and they go to prison. And, you know, the whole thing about them stealing the Declaration of Independence just kind of gets kicked under the rug. Do you like that motion? That was me kicking the Declaration crime under the rug. I don't know. I've been talking for like 2 hours now, man. I gotta wrap this up. Yeah, I love how he just steps out of the shadows like Batman. And Ian's like, well played, sir. Now we jump a little bit ahead. Oh, I had Marry Me pulled up and it started randomly playing in the other tab. I was like, why am I hearing Owen Wilson? This is not a segue for me to jump off and start talking about Marry Me. But we're gonna finish up this video. We jump ahead in time. Their life is very good now because they're known as the people that found the history-altering treasure of a lifetime. So they're flying off all around the world to go to all these openings of exhibits.
10%, Ben. They offered you 10%, you turn it down.
Riley's salty because apparently they were offered a 10% finder's fee of the treasure, which Ben turned down because it was too much. Which, to be fair to Ben, this treasure is like, I don't even It's incalculable how valuable this treasure was, because they actually only accepted 1% of the treasure, which they've split. So Riley and Ben each have 0.5% of the treasure, and look at their lives. Riley's driving a sports car. Ben and Abigail, who are together now, they live in this giant, historic, beautiful home. And that's from 1%. And the movie ends with Ben and Abigail being a cute history buff couple. All in all, I actually really love this movie. It's on all the time, and it's also one of those movies that I don't mind just having on in the background all the time, you know? I regularly pull it up on Disney Plus so that I can listen to it. But, like, also, do you notice that this movie is always on TV? Like, you could turn on TV at any point in time. I could probably turn on TV right now, and it would be on somewhere. One of the two movies. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie. It's very campy. You have to suspend quite a bit of your disbelief, but I love it. It's very fun. Nicolas Cage is exactly the right amount of Nicolas Cage, and Riley is the best. I love him. But that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Everything you do to support this channel means the world to me. If you're new here and you're a fan of nonsense, maybe consider sticking around because I post nonsense all the time. And remember, my name is Avery. I'm a YouTuber if you say so, because thanks to you guys, this is technically a YouTube channel. I mean, if I had one complaint, I guess it would be that they try to make the Founding Fathers seem super cool when they were not at all. But, you know, what are you gonna do?